Hello everyone and welcome to your another section of Civics class. We are going to continue with our class Introduction to the Constitution. So as I mentioned this agenda in our last class as well. This is our agenda for civics classes. So this is the day 2 today. We are going to do the same objective, collect information, ask a lot of questions about the information and then draw our conclusion. This is our objective for today. We will be able to collect and compare information gained from different sources and draw conclusion. And our learning question for today's class is, why do countries need a constitution? Our learning question is the same as our previous class. So today, what we are going to majorly focus on is this. We are going to collect and compare information from different sources about the Constitution of India. In our last objective, we collect information and compare it about from different sources about South African Constitution. Now we are going to focus on Indian Constitution. Our steps to build skills remains the same. Read the test, write down what you understood from the source in your notebook, then listen to my explanation and then fill the worksheet after the end of the class. Alright, so let's begin. Source 1. British Indian Empire. For 200 years, the Indian subcontinent was ruled by the British. As we all know that India got its independence in 1947. Before that, India was ruled by Britishers. And India was ruled for how many years? For 200 years. The British rule brought about many changes. So when the Britishers were living in India for 200 years, the Britishers brought many rules, right? They were following their own rules, their own laws. There were laws of Britishers that Indians have to follow, right? Indians were forced to follow British rules. India suffered a great loss during this time. People lost their homes, occupations, lives, and decided to be free from the atrocities of British. Atrocities. एट्रोसिटीज का मतलब होता है किसी को बहुत ज्यादा परेशान करना, to create trouble for someone. Okay, so during British rule, many Indian people lost their homes, they lost their jobs, occupations मतलब jobs, they lost their lives, many people died, and what they did in the end, they decided that they want to get freedom from whatever struggles that they are facing, whatever problems that they are facing from Britishers. Source 2. Divide and rule policy. Whenever the British felt threatened by Indian nationalism and saw it growing, they divided the Indian people along religious lines. So this picture on the left hand side, there is one person whose name is Lord Macaulay. Lord Macaulay, in his letter which he sent it to British Parliament on 2nd Feb 1837, he mentioned that Britishers in India are governing their rule, or they are making their laws, and they are ruling India with this policy, with divide and rule policy. What they were doing, they were basically dividing Indian peoples based on their religion. So they were creating hatred in in people of in people with Hindu religion and in people with Muslim religion, right? So वो इंडिया में इस तरीके से रूल कर रहे थे जहाँ पे वो मुस्लिम्स और हिंदूज को डिवाइड करके रखते थे, so that there should not be any unity in India, and if there is no unity among peoples of India, they will not stand united and fight against British rule. So this was the mindset of Britishers for in order to rule India. Source 3. Farmers were forced to cultivate cash crops that would be sold in European markets. These cash crops destroyed the fertility of the soil and made it difficult to grow other crops like wheat and rice. Farmers were exploited economically and were not paid. So farmers, they were forced by Britishers to cultivate, means to grow cash crops. Cash crops matlab to grow indigo, cotton, tea, spices, sugarcane and jute. These are called as cash crops. Now, why farmers were forced to grow these crops only? Because when farmers grow these crops, the Britishers can export them to यूरोपियन मार्केट्स. एक्सपोर्ट का मतलब ये जो भी क्रॉप्स फार्मर्स ग्रो करते थे वो पूरा के पूरा क्रॉप्स कहाँ पर वो बेचते थे, यूरोपियन मार्केट्स में, मतलब यूरोप में जाता था. यूरोप यानी स्पेन, फ्रांस, जर्मनी, इंग्लैंड, ये सब जगह पे जाके वो बेच देते थे. सो व्हाट हैपेंड विद दिस? ड्यू टू कैश क्रॉप्स द फर्टिलिटी ऑफ द सॉइल, जो जमीन होता है, जो खेती करने का जगह होता है, वहाँ का जो सॉइल होता है वो एकदम सूखा हो जाएगा. अब when the soil, when the fertility is dry, when there is when the land becomes infertile, it makes it very difficult to grow other crops like wheat and rice. तो राइस, व्हीट, जो बेसिक चावल और गेहूं होता है हमको जो खाने के लिए जरूरत होती है, it becomes very difficult for farmers to grow crops of wheat and rice on those lands. In that sense, farmers were exploited economically and they were not paid. Exploited economically का मतलब होता है they were not given enough salary or they were not given sufficient amount for their crops. मतलब ये जो भी crops, cash crops वो लोग grow कर रहे थे on their lands, they were given less money for that. तो वो जो है ब्रिटिशर्स उनको कम पैसे देते थे वो क्रॉप्स ग्रो करने के लिए. So this is how farmers were treated during British era. Between 12 to 29 million Indians died of starvation. Starvation का मतलब होता है no food. So because of the food given to because of the food exported to European countries, there were very less amount of food available for Indian people, and because of that many people died. While it was under the control of the British Empire, millions of tons of wheat were exported to Britain as famine reached in India. फैमिन का मतलब होता है सूखापन. तो जब सूखापन ज्यादा हो जाता था, ज्यादा खेती बाड़ी नहीं होती थी, तब भी ब्रिटिशर्स क्या करते थे, व्हीट, राइस, ये सब चीजें एक्सपोर्ट करते थे. सो इंडियंस they don't get enough food, because of which many people died. This right hand side you can see a picture which is from West Bengal, which shows how people, what was the health of the people during that period. So one thing led to another. There was the Britishers were exported food. They were exporting foods. They were exporting cash crops, as well as they were exporting wheat and rice to European markets, because of which there were no food for Indian people. Because of that, Indian people suffered starvation and many people died. So इस तरीके से ये चेन साइकिल चल रहा था. In 1943, up to 4 million Bengalis, 4 million Bengalis starved to death. 40 lakh, 4 million means 40 lakhs Bengalis, they starved to death. Means there were no food, because of which they died. When crops grown in India was given to British soldiers and countries like Greece, while a deadly famine swept through Bengal. Indians fought against the British rule through peaceful protest and attained independence in 1947. In this picture, you can see many people are protesting. We remembered the word protesting. We remembered the word protest from our previous objective. Protest का मतलब होता है to fight against something. But in India, there was no uh, you know ऐसा fight नहीं हुआ था where they are physically fighting. So there was peaceful protest. Peaceful protest means they took an oath that they will not fight anyone. They will not fight anyone. So there is this movement called as Quit India movement, which was started by Mahatma Gandhi. This movement was a nationwide movement where many people participated in this protest. If you can see, many people are on the street. They demanded Britishers to quit India. That's why it was named Quit India movement, right? And because of all of this protest, British rule came to an end. The Britishers were forced to leave India, and India got its independence in 1947. Now think about these two questions. Okay, how would you feel if you were treated differently because of your race or religion? What did British Empire did? British Empire, British Empire, they wanted to rule India, and how did they rule India? They divided the people of India based on their religion. In South Africa, Europeans divided South African people based on their races, based on their skin colors. But in India, Britishers divided Indian people based on their religion, Hindu people and Muslim people like that, right? So how would you feel if you were treated differently because of your race or religion? Okay. Second question: do you think the rulers or government in the country treated the people with equality? Do you think that the government in the country, okay, in our country, do you think that they are treating people with equality, with equal rights? They are giving people equal rights. Uh, they have laws which are equal to others. If yes, say yes and give your reason. If no, say no and give your reasons. So these are the two questions. Pause your video here. Write down these two questions. These are your homework questions as well. So pause your questions. Pause your video here. Write down these two questions in your notebook, and you can write down the answers. You can write down your answers like 2 or 3 sentences for both the questions. पहले आंसर का दो सेंटेंस में you can write it down. Second आंसर का भी 2 sentences में you can write it down. Okay. Once you have completed those two questions, come back to this slide. The Indian Empire was partitioned into India and Pakistan. The country was divided based on religious differences. After India got its independence, um, it was divided into two countries, India and West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Okay, West Pakistan is the region which is to the south of India, right? Kashmir के जो left hand side में, if you can see, that is West Pakistan, and East Pakistan was the region uh, where it is Kolkata, right? Kolkata के side में जो right hand side में, if you can see that small region is East Pakistan, and this division was done based on religion, right? Many of the Muslims, they voluntarily went to Pakistan. Some stayed, many of the Muslims stayed in India as well, and also in India there was division of people based on their caste also. So there was caste system also, right? So caste system में क्या होता था? There were Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmin. This was the caste system which was followed, which is still now following by many people. So in India, so this is how people are divided in India. People were divided based on caste system, and there were two countries formed based on religion. The Indian national movement was not merely a struggle of freedom from the British, but also from division based on religion. It was a struggle to unite the country and transform society and politics. So, Indian national movement, when India got its freedom, it was not just a freedom from struggle of British Empire, but also a freedom from division based on religions, right? They were divided. They divided India based on their religion, divided Indian people based on their religion. So India got its freedom from that as well, and India united. Right, it was a struggle to unite the country and transform society and politics. Because of that, India needed a constitution. So India needed a constitution that would unite people, that would free people and establish peace and equality. So this was the reason why India needed a right. India needed a constitution so that every citizen, no matter from which religion it comes or he or she comes, every religion will be treated equally. There will be equal rights to each and every citizen of India. And because of that, India needed a constitution, and India got its constitution in the year 1950. So with that, we have completed our class today. Now, what Bhaiya wants to say is this. So I will not be sending you any separate worksheet for today's class. Uh, what I did is I incorporated those two questions in this video only, so you can directly write down the answers for these two questions. And I want each and every one of you to write down the notes. Okay, write down the notes. I will share the notes separately. So write down the notes of our today's class as well as the answers of those two questions. This is your homework for today's class. So with that, we have come to the end of our today's session. I hope that you all liked our class today and learned something new. Thank you so much, guys.